I want to show you proof that God will use you. And I'm going to show you one scripture, it's two scriptures, two verses, and we're going to talk about it for a minute. And this is absolutely, if you have a pen and a paper or something, hit pause and write this scripture down. Amos chapter 7 verses 14 and 15. And I say to write it down, just so you can look it up. If you're going through this again to where you think God might not use you, but I have proof here that he absolutely will. First of all, Amos was a prophet of the Old Testament. Let me just give a real quick, really fast background. Amos was a prophet of the Old Testament. Now, this was a time of prosperity. There wasn't really war going on, but at the same time, Israel was breaking the laws left and right, like the laws of Israel, the rules, laws, right? So he was one of the minor 12 prophets of the Old Testament. There was the major prophets and there was the minor prophets, right? Now, we'll go even further and I'll say, which is common sense, I just told you it's in the book of Amos. So that on top of it is showing you not only is this guy a prophet, not only is he one of the 12 minor prophets, but he's also has a book in the actual Bible. Okay, so this is 10 out of 10, boom. This is a big deal here, right? So go to chapter 7, verse 14 through 15, and listen to this, and then we're going to break it down, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. Then answered Amos and said to Amaziah, I was no prophet, neither was I a prophet's son, but I was a herdman and a gatherer of sycamore fruit, and the Lord took me as I followed the flock, and the Lord said unto me, Go, prophesy unto my people Israel. Okay, so this is a scripture, and this is Amos talking, right? So, and I'm looking at it because I don't want to mix this up and miss anything, right? So, he's saying that I wasn't a prophet or a prophet's son, because things happened differently back in the days of the Old Testament. It was like Jeremiah, for instance, was supposed to do sacrifices at the temple just like his dad did the sacrifices, but obviously he broke off from that. Didn't work out that way, but still, one of those reasons is because he was in a bloodline, right, as a priest. So that was his job to do the sacrifice, right? So it was, if your dad was a carpenter outside of Jesus, if your dad was a carpenter, you would be a carpenter. That's basically how it worked, right? So if you have somebody that's a prophet, it's like, okay, but that's why he's saying neither was I a prophet or a prophet's son. So he's saying he's not lined up or established in any way, shape, or form of anything like that, right? And he's saying I was just a herdsman and a gatherer of fruit. So he took care of animals and he gathered sycamore fruit, right? So you can say he was a common person like me or you. There was no multi-generational, amazing, not that I don't respect that, of course I respect that, but I'm just saying there was no past with this guy, okay? There was nothing special about him. He worked with animals. He was a herdsman. He collected fruit, right? There was nothing amazing about this guy. He was not a bloodline, nothing, right? And yet God says to him as he's walking with the flock, Go prophesy unto my people. Wow. And what happens from this point on? Okay, stuff had already happened by chapter 7, but I'm saying for God to give that response after him saying, I'm just a herdsman, who in the world am I? Well, you're one of the books of the Bible. You're one of the minor prophets of the Old Testament. You know what I'm saying? It's wow. And he didn't come from this bloodline. And I'm saying this to you, okay? Because, I don't know your story, but let's just say you don't have multi-generational this or that. It's irrelevant. Do you have some amazing last name, like some big name preachers or like that, or whatever, right? Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Because God can look at a herdsman, okay, that just takes care of animals and collects fruit and makes him unbelievably important, okay, because he was used to prophesy to the people of Israel because they were breaking off from God's laws, okay? They were slipping left and right, and God used him, okay? He didn't go to some perfect, amazing person that's multi-generational, this and that. He's like, how about that guy that's taking care of animals and collecting fruit? That's the person I'm going to use. Right, just like Moses, okay? You look at like Moses, okay? He could barely even speak, He had all... I could get into that some other time, but Moses, you can look into that too, okay? God used him to pull his people Israel out of Egypt, okay? And he could barely even speak, okay? And who was he to lead? He even murdered an Egyptian that was beating on, or sorry, no. There was two Israeli people and they were getting into a fight. And he said, "Brothers, why are you fighting?" No. Wow, I messed that up too. Sorry, my mind's not thinking too straight today. Okay. The Egyptian is beating the Israeli person, right? From Israel, okay? So he stops the Egyptian and accidentally murders the Egyptian, right? So then he takes off and he leaves Egypt. He comes back after being led by God to lead his people Israel, right? So he comes back and he leads the people out of Israel, right? But you think about something, though, because the very next day there's two Israeli people that are Jewish people that are arguing amongst each other, and Moses goes, "Brother, your brothers, why are you fighting with each other?" Right? And they look over and they're like, "Why are you going to murder us like the Egyptian yesterday?" So in a way it was kind of the same deal of, who in the world am I to do anything, right? And it's the same thing with Amos. And yet Moses led the people out of Egypt, right? And I just hope that somehow someone listens to this, that you take this for what it is. It's proof. I mean, it isn't just Amos or Moses. There are other people. My mind's going blank, but yes, I promise you that the disciples were fishermen, okay? Well, not all of them. Some of them were fishermen, okay? And like Matthew was a tax collector. Peter, I hope you get what I'm trying to say here. Is it doesn't matter what your background, or if you're going to church and you think, who am I to be used by God? Amos took care of animals, okay? Peter fished, okay? And yet Peter was used, they were all used massively, So I take that scripture, and I hope you wrote it down. If you ever get doubts or think or question, remember that scripture about Amos and what I said. And I hope that this stuck out to someone, and I hope this encouraged you. And if you've never been to church before and you're curious about a relationship with God, you go to upci.org or UPC Church Locator. You can find one in your area. That it has a zip code thing. You just type it in. And if you're outside of America, there are UPC churches all over this planet. It will actually do a location thing and show you exactly how to get there. And I hope that you gain a relationship with God, because like I say sometimes in these other videos, and I'll say it in this one, YouTube videos or television preachers or this and that is not a relationship with God. Not at all. It might be something to push you in a direction towards God, but it's not the direction towards God. You got to have a relationship with God. You got to go to church. You got to read the word. You got to pray. You got to fast. You got to get connected with people. You got to get connected with the church. There's an altar at the church. It's important, if you want a relationship with God, because videos are just, or TV shows of preachers, no, it's not enough. You got to have a real deep relationship with God. There's got to be a big connection between you, God, and God's people. And I hope that this helps someone somehow, and have a nice day.